And this one involves Dan Abadir, CEO of New Line Processing out of Williamsville, New York.
Correct.
And the reason that we're having him on the show is that he's coming into Michigan with a new product that will help cannabis companies sell more product. And I don't want to, I'll let him explain everything better than I will, but it essentially lines of credit,
Hmm.
maybe later on, something along the lines of a special credit card that would be private labeled. But all these things are still getting worked out. I'll let Dan take it from here. And let's talk about what is New Line Processing. I know you're not just here in Michigan or coming into Michigan, but you're in a number of places, right?
Yes. In fact, New Line Processing was formed in 2014 to support the regulated and restricted industries in general. And at the time, it was the spawn of the cannabis industry, where we targeted cannabis as our core competency.
Okay, so what needs did you discover, did New Line Processing discover about the cannabis financial markets specifically?
There was a great deal. The industry is still evolving. It's going to continue to evolve. There's going to be a great deal of hurdles that those who play in the space will have to overcome, from not only a point from being able to establish bank accounts, but then to repurpose profits into businesses that will allow cannabis monies to be repurposed into certain investment projects. There's a great deal of issues when it comes to the inconsistencies, I'd like to say, between some of the regulations, which the banks shy away from. There's some new legislation that's coming up here through the House, which is called the Safe Banking Act. This could make some considerable difference in the market, but it remains to be seen how long it will take for some of that legislation to take place if the Safe Banking Act is passed.
Yeah, they've been talking about that one for a while, and it's been a political football. A lot of the Dems want to do it, a lot of the Republicans don't. I think it'll hinge partly on who wins the election in November. And I'm not going to speculate on that because I don't have a crystal ball. But yeah, they've been talking about that for a while. But let's talk about what's going on, say, in Michigan, where you can't use a Visa or a MasterCard or anything like that. Tell people why that is the case.
Yeah, so MasterCard and Visa, um, for all intents and purposes, are banks. They are banks. They sit on top of other banks as a charter. So if Chase Bank wants to issue a MasterCard or Visa, they have to have a charter, in a MasterCard or Visa charter, in order to do so. Of course, Chase has both MasterCard and Visa charters. So as a result of that, every bank has industries that it restricts and that it allows. And being that that MasterCard and Visa are federally chartered instruments, they cannot support cannabis in the United States. As MasterCard and Visa have developed what are called merchant classification codes, MCC codes, and those codes are what determine whether or not they are restricted or not. So, although marijuana is restricted in the United States, there already is a classification code for marijuana. What that means to you and I is that not only does MasterCard and Visa recognize the industry, but that is the way that they have restricted it. They've restricted it through that merchant classification code. Now, that merchant classification code is available in other countries. where marijuana is legally sold, just not the United States.
Hmm.
So we've developed a closed loop project, which is going to take the place of the need of using MasterCard or Visa in a consumer transaction. We call it Omni Credit. This is a closed loop program that does not touch any of the card programs.
Okay, so how does that work? How do you get through the banking system?
Well, we serve as our own bank. Technology has come a long way. As a result of that, we're able to go direct to market and serve as our own bank. So we are not only our own issuing bank, but we are also our own acquiring bank. So we are providing the card issuance and the card acceptance.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, specifically, the way I understand it is for the cannabis dispensaries that you give them the machine to use. I'm a little unclear about who would pay the fees, whether that would be the dispensary or the consumer. I guess that would be up to the dispensary, right?
Well, right now we're going to issue it very much like a traditional line of credit would be issued. And same with the card acceptance side of it. It's going to be very traditional. So it's consistent with any other type of merchant that would accept another type of credit card, which means that it's going to cost approximately 3% to the merchant to accept the card of the credit account, not a card. It's not a physical card. It's your actual mobile device is your card. So we, as a result, we can issue the credit accounts literally within a millisecond of a customer going through just a couple of prompts. It's a small balance credit card, so our risk is not the same as it would be for a normal credit card. Normal credit cards are going to have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, $30,000 credit limits. Our maximum credit limit is going to be $1,000 because the need to purchase more than that at a retail dispensary is slim to zero. So,
yeah, the average basket in Michigan's around $140. Sometimes less, but it's not a substantial amount of money. Like people don't go in and buy a pound or two at a time. That doesn't work like that. So, but yeah, the market basket is, right around $100 more or less, depending on the customer. But yeah, I think 1,000 is plenty of money for these.
Absolutely.
Folks. Yeah, right. So,
and it serves a perfect role in the transaction. We seamlessly can provide an approval code to a merchant. They would know immediately if there's enough funds are available, just as if they would to receive approval code from the normal card network. So I've worked under the card brand rules for most of my career. From my former life, I've 30 plus years in tier 1 banking, which has afforded us a lot of visibility into the do's and don'ts when it comes to issuing credit. And it's really going to give us a leg up as we launch this program.
So do cannabis consumers then deposit money into an account with you, or how does that work?
No, we are not a stored value product. Okay. And the difference between, there's many different types of instruments, financial instruments that are used today. And you're bringing up a very valid question. So, you have what's called a stored value product. This is an intermediary financial instrument. What you're describing is an intermediary financial instrument that sits between the customer and the merchant, where money is brought into it and then the merchant takes the money out of it. this tech is not 100% compliant. It really was designed as a workaround. This is not what we're doing. We are issuing a revolving credit line. So when that person is approved, they've been issued a revolving line of credit. And depending on their credit worthiness, they're going to be put into a $250 credit limit, $500 credit limit, or $800 credit limit. Those are the starting points for each one of them, depending on their credit worthiness. As a result of that, they have the ability to make purchases and draw against that credit availability. And again, as they make payments, they'll be paying towards the amount that's owed, and which will give them more buying power next time they go in.
So this is really aimed at a lot of folks that maybe have, wouldn't say weak credit, but limited credit, so that would help them out. Would that be safe to say?
We originally designed it for that purpose, but it's much broader than that. We intend on attracting prime customers, mid-prime customers, and subprime customers alike. The subprime customers are the ones that you are referring to. So, but this product actually has the ability. It's actually a general purpose revolving line of credit. Our intentions are to expand our footprint and make it available in many different forms, both online and in storefronts, and in many different industries. So our launching point is cannabis, but we intend on making it a household name eventually. So we want everyone to have it in their wallet, no matter what their credit worthiness is.
Well, this case should be a digital wallet rather than a plastic card.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes, correct.
Right. So, yeah.
Correct.
And you were saying that what's the procedure if a customer walks in, wants to get one of these with a line of credit? What are the steps that they have to take?
I mean, literally, what happens is when that customer walks in this a dispensary, the dispensary will be provided a device which they'll be used to screen their customers. It's connected to the DMV, and of course, other databases which can predict fraud or and we will also be screening the phone number that they provide. This information is required by every state and regulatory body, because ultimately, as a merchant, you have to be able to report suspicious activity under the FinCEN regulations. And those key pieces of identifying information must be collected when that customer walks in. Immediately, within a millisecond, that customer will receive an SMS saying you've been approved for, you qualify for an instant line of credit. You're 2 clicks away. All that customer has to do is create a user ID and a password and accept the terms and conditions. And we provide them a QR code, which they could use when they walk up to the counter. There's no other information that's required other than the information that they needed to get to walk into the dispensary to be approved and accepted for this this product.
And of course, in Michigan, to walk into a dispensary, you have to produce your driver's license, and they run your driver's license anyway as you're walking in the door. So,
correct. So now what we're going to do is we're going to provide the dispensaries free equipment to do that. As a result, that equipment is what will be used to not only screen that customer, to verify their ID, and to ensure that they are who they say they are. But not only that, but it's also going to be used to send them the qualifying offer for the revolving line of credit. So the dispensary gets 2 benefits here. They get free equipment and support that helps them bring in a compliant customer, and that same piece of equipment that they use to screen the customer for and scan the ID is the same instrument that will be used to bring the customer's information into our database and make and qualify them for an offer.